How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm glad that we finally got to do this.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. So I can just kind of jump around in terms of roles in your career and everything.
Okay.
And I know how you I know the story of how you wanted to pursue voiceover and all that, but I hadn't seen anybody bring up the Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
That's actually a mistake. I was
It
never
is.
in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah. Is that funny? Yeah, I don't know how that IMDb is not always accurate. So
Okay.
I don't know where that came from, but no, I never I was never on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I watched it, but I was not on it.
So did you move to LA like immediately after college?
About a year after I
Okay.
graduated. Yeah. Yeah. So at the time I was doing theater and I wanted to um AFTRA is the union for theater. And so I wanted to have something before I moved to a major city. So I went and did a summer at Hershey Park where I got my equity eligibility card.
Okay.
Um, Not knowing that that didn't matter in LA. Nobody cares. But I had it, and that was my like, okay, I have my little card in my wallet. So, but I didn't end up really doing theater when I got here. I auditioned for a couple of things here and there, but I really just jumped into acting class and tried to get a job, like working just so I could pay my bills. And then, it all kind of snowballed from there. And I started to focus on just voiceover once I got here.
And would that Barbie book playing Skipper be the first thing that where you got your SAG card?
I did not get my SAG card from that. I actually got my SAG card before that. I was doing so one of the ways to do it is if you do extra work. So just being an extra in the background of a movie. And so I did once you do 3 days, you can be what's called Taft Hartleyed into the
Yep.
union. So that's how I got my SAG card. I worked on Starship Troopers for 2 days. And
Oh,
that was hilarious. I can't remember the other. Was it Gods and Monsters? There was
okay.
a movie. So those were my 3 days. So I got Taft Hartleyed into the Union. Um, but then the Barbie book was my very first official voiceover job. So,
Right.
and I didn't even have to go and do it. Like I did, I went down to is it Mattel? I think it was Mattel, to do the audition, and they're very secretive because toys are like, it's like
Mhm.
video games now. Like nobody can know anything. Like they practically put a hood over my head before they let me go back. But So I went there and did the audition there, and they just used my audition for the book. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And when you did get the role of Polly on Kids from Room 402, considering who else was on the cast, was that kind of daunting at all for you initially?
I didn't know enough about who they were until
Okay.
I started working. So, I mean, the whole thing was daunting just because I was like, it's my first show and it was so exciting. But I didn't know, it was kind of better that I didn't know because probably,
Mhm.
yes, that would have made me really nervous. But yeah, at the time I didn't, like I said, I got to know them as we were working. I'm like, holy moly, you were on blah. So I actually got to work with some really, really great people on that show, the regular cast, but also they had a lot of really cool guest stars. So
Mhm.
it was really fun. Like who knew that all these guest people would come and work on the kids from room 402, but they
Right.
did. So
And with how crazy Polly's voice is that just really easy for you to slip into, or is it
yeah,
difficult?
it's pretty easy. I mean, she collects spoons. She's pretty loud. We had Edie McClurg. She was the vice principal, or she worked in the school. She was like, and so she would come in, and lots of engineers will assign you to a microphone. And so she was always assigned next to me. And she literally would cringe and put her hands over her ears every time I did it. So after a couple of sessions, she requested to come in by herself.
Oh.
I blew her out of the booth. I didn't mean to. She was so sweet, but she was just like, she was cringing every time I opened my mouth because,
Mhm.
Polly was really loud. I'm sure the engineer was like, whoa, turn her down. But she
And
can't help it. She's loud.
And I did read too that you had a callback for Powerpuff Girls.
I did. Yeah. Um, I got to go to producers and for a couple of for two different girls, Blossom and Bubbles. And when I was doing Bubbles, she stopped me and she goes, "It sounds too much like a boy. Can we, girl her up a little bit?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, of course." So I did it again, and she's like, "Okay, better, blah blah blah." And then she said, "Okay, you need to go back to your agent and tell her that you do boys." And that just kind of blew my mind because in my head, all of my characters were girls. Like I just, I would give voices to babies and animals and whatever, but it never occurred to me that I could do boy voices, and now I probably do more boy voices than I do girl voices. But yeah, so
And uh,
I didn't
when,
get it, obviously.
yeah,
I wasn't called a girl.
when you did get Sora and Digimon, how long did it take for you to kind of get used to dubbing?
That was very stressful because I did not know at all what I was doing. So it was very much on the job training. I worked with such great people, so they were very patient with me, and I just kind of it was one of those fake it till you make it kind of things. It took me a good few sessions, and every time I was scheduled to go, I was like, "Oh dear, no, I have to do that thing again with the beeps and the waiting and the matching." And so it's really a skill that you have to learn, and it took me I don't know how long it took me. You'd have to ask like Wendy Lee or Jeff Seymour or one of the directors, like, "Oh geez, she didn't know what she was doing." um but yeah, it was, and the other thing that is interesting with anime and dubbing is the scripts are formatted a little bit differently, and so
Mhm.
if there's going to be a pause or if they want you to just roll through something or whatever, there's like this little secret code that I didn't know. So that was a lot of learning too, because sometimes, and different writers have a different way of putting it in the script. Sometimes they use a slash, sometimes it's a dash, sometimes it's dot dot dot, and different, like I had to learn that too. Every show that I started to work on had a little bit different way of indicating those breaks in the dialogue or wherever they would have, so yes,
Mhm.
that took me a minute to figure that one out.
And in terms of long running characters that you've been playing, like Sora, and do you think that you can relate more to Sora, or like both the
um
most?
I think I can relate to a little bit of both of them, like Sora especially because she's such a nurturer and I tend to be a nurturer too. I have lots of animals, I have kids, I tend to, like talk my friends down off of ledge. Like I just, that's kind of part of who I am as a, like have you eaten? Have you drink? Have did you have enough water today? Like I'm always like thinking of those things for anybody.
Mhm.
Um, and I know Sora, she does that a lot too. And then I think with, you know, she's so, she's got some chutzpah, and I hope I have a little bit of that in me. I mean, I don't scream at my friends and call them names or anything, but um, you know, and I'm not a ninja,
Mhm.
but I think I have some of those characteristics too, here and there. They have little pieces of you, they're
Right.
like a little bit of who you are that you add to the character.
And this is jumping ahead, but I do, since nobody has really brought it up. What were your thoughts on playing Wim and Monster, Little Boy?
I don't know if I remember that one. Like if I saw a picture or I heard a line or whatever, I'd be like, "Oh yeah." But oh wow, that one's escaping me.
It was Patrick Syeds directing everybody.
Yes, see? Okay, thank you. See, I just need a little reminder. Okay, that was I'm pretty sure if this is the one I'm thinking of. We did it at Salami Studios, and that was the first time I had worked with Patrick, and he was great. Um everything that I work on is so I just love to work and I love the people that I work with. And so any chance I get to do something new or a different character or whatever, I'm totally on board. So,
Mhm.
but it was great working with Patrick. He's a really good director and
Mhm.
also extraordinarily talented on the other side of the mic. So he's great.
And what is the if you could pick a single one of what is the darkest emotional headspace you've had to get into for an anime role.
For anime, probably Konohamaru, with Asuma Sensei. That whole there was this whole fight scene, and then Asuma Sensei died, and it was spoilers. But that was a lot because he was really really emotional, and also he was fighting, and so it was just this like you're doing the battle, but you're like feeling it, and so, yeah, I was kind of wrecked after those sessions. It was a lot for sure. And then there was a Sora in Try Digimon Try.
Yep.
There was a lot of emotion going on in that one because Biyomon didn't remember her, and she was the only one that wasn't like, well, I don't remember you, but let's be friends. And she was like, get away from me. And that just, I think that just really wounded Sora deeply. So
Mhm.
that was a lot of emotional conjuring for that one for sure. Yeah.
And I did want to, because I think you're the first person I've talked to that got to play different monsters in every season of Sailor Moon. So,
So
did
funny.
did you audition for like a major character first, or like how did that
No, you
go?
know, that was one that they would call me in, which is
Okay.
always a lovely thing. Doesn't happen that often, but when it does, you're like, yay. So yeah, they would call me in for those. And it was always kind of surprising because like you said, I don't do a lot of monster type stuff or bad guys. Like that's not my people don't tend to cast me in those roles. So I was like, oh cool. I get to like, I mean they always won, which, good for them. But
Mhm.
those were always so much fun. I'm like, ooh, what are we doing today? So it was always fun.
So did you have to audition for Pearl then for the
That one
movie?
I did
Yeah.
audition for him. Yes. Yes. It's great to be in that Sailor Moon universe. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, I loved seeing that once the cast for that final movie came out. I loved seeing that it was you playing him.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was good.
And so going back to the timeline of things, I'm not sure if you can remember, but I think after Digimon, your next like major-ish anime role would have been in the Initial D series.
Oh wow. Was that yes, I remember that one. What was that Michael Storage, I think maybe?
Yeah.
He directed? Okay. Yeah, I remember that. I'm like, it's so funny. I can picture like the studios. They had like kind of rickety stairs. So I can
Okay.
picture the stairs going up to the thing. Um, yeah, it was, for me, it's been kind of this roller coastery. Like I do a lot of anime and then I do a lot of original, and it's just been sort of like this, or, oh, now I'm doing video games. It's always been kind of like clumped that way
Mhm.
over the years. And then lately it's just been kind of like a, mixed bag of everything. So
Right.
did a commercial on Monday, did some dubbing on Tuesday, um, did a video game last week, so it's just like it's kind of all over the place. And I just booked a new show that I can't talk about yet, but I'm so
Oh, great.
excited. Yeah.
Well, because on that topic, I think well the last or like the most safest anime I would think you could talk about is playing Mary Hunt.
Yes, that's the most recent, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just started back on a new season of that. So I went to a in-person convention a few weeks ago for the first time, and this whole family had like these comic books from that show, and they knew that I played, excuse me, they knew that I played Mary Hunt, and they were all, it was the cutest thing. And I don't have prints of her yet because it's so new,
Right.
and I hadn't been, I didn't think that I'm excited because I didn't know that many people were watching that show. I get little messages on Twitter, and I'm not kidding, this whole family, they were so cute. They had these like comic books,
Yeah.
almost like coloring books of that show. It was really cute. Who knew? Because I don't know these things until you guys tell me. I don't know. I'm just over here living my life, being mom, do whatever. But so I don't find out about all these things unless somebody tells me.
So do you ever watch anime outside of working on it?
I don't.
Okay.
I in the very beginning, like when I first worked on Digimon, I would watch it a couple times because it was so fast. Like
Mhm.
we would record it and then it would be on TV, and that was crazy to hear your voice coming out of a cartoon character is pretty darn cool.
Right.
So I did watch that a little bit in the beginning, but yeah, my son loves anime, so he watches a fair
Okay.
amount. He likes the manga more so than watching it, depending on the show. But he's a big fan. So
And regarding someone else related to Digimon, Bridget Hoffman, I know that you took over her role as Cosmos in the second Xenosaga game. Do you really remember, like, is there any kind of story about that, or do you remember much of it, about it?
I didn't know. I actually found out way later
Oh,
that
okay.
that somebody else had played her for a second because I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with the game. I get the audition, I audition, I get the part, and I go, yay! So I don't always know the history. Um, Now for Tails, I did know, and I knew Kate Higgins, and I know her very well, and I actually saw her at the callback for Sonic Boom,
Oh, okay.
and but I at the until I walked into that room, I didn't know that she had played Tails previously.
Mhm.
So I was called back for Tails and Sticks.
Yep.
And she was sitting there and she said, I don't know, came up, whatever. And so she said, oh, and I said, oh my gosh, I don't want to audition for your part. She goes, no, no, no. Like they had worked it all out. And she said, no, please go audition. So I did, but I felt terrible because nobody wants their part to be, you don't ever want to get replaced. I've
Hmm.
been replaced many times and it hurts. It's like, but why? What more can I do? Like I'll do whatever to get to stay doing that part. So I didn't want to be the one to take her part. But as far as Cosmos, I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why, you know, I don't know if how different my performance was from hers. I have no idea. But sometimes it's just strange. Like sometimes there isn't really a reason. Or
Hmm.
maybe she wasn't available. Who knows? Like you have to not take it personally, which is hard, but you do. Like when I got replaced during being Wasp,
Oh,
ouch.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a rough one. But
Because,
I didn't even get to re-audition. Like they just were going in a different direction and
mhm.
didn't get to go with them. So, but not that many people from Earth's Mightiest Heroes got to like Fred Tatasciore was still the Hulk, and I can't remember if anybody else still got to stay.
Mhm.
Uh, there was new Captain America. There was like new everybody. So you know,
Well, because when I just talked to Tara, I know that even when she briefly took over the role of Genus in the Tales series, that you got to come back as him for like another game after that. So
and who knows why? Like
yeah.
just it's so silly. Like I don't know. And I didn't find out that she had done Genus until we were doing the convention together. She's like, I did Genus. I'm like, no, I did. Like, wait a minute. See, we don't always know, and we don't always know when they're doing another game. Like unless I auditioned for it or booked it, I have no idea. So
Mhm.
they could be they could be doing every game that I ever did right now, and I would have no idea unless they called me and I got to do it or I had to audition for it. So
And I don't know if you can really talk about it, but regarding Tails and Sonic, when I just talked to Kirk Thornton in July, he said that they weren't using you guys anymore. He wasn't sure about it because, like, he said that he wasn't the voice of Shadow anymore. Maybe.
well, I think maybe now I can't speak to him, but we just did a Twitter takeover,
Yeah.
and he was Shadow.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing. So in the beginning, we weren't going to be doing it, and then all of a sudden, I don't know exactly what happened. I'm going to credit Roger for getting us back in, but yeah, it was back and forth and up and down, and then all of a sudden, so I did do another game.
Okay.
Um, so I will be doing the games for sure.
Okay.
Um, Unless they change their mind. I don't know. So I will be doing the games. And the next one that's coming, Sonic Rangers, I think it's called. I did that one. So
Okay.
now the new colors, I am not Tails because that was before me.
Right.
So and I don't know if Kate re-recorded anything for that, but I did not go in and do Tails
Okay.
for the new released, new mastered, whatever. I was Charmy
Yep.
in that game, and I don't know if this version has Charmy because I did not go back in and do anything new, but he could be there. I have no idea. Um, so so going forward, I am still Tails in the video games
Okay.
for now. I mean, until I hear otherwise. So
And this might be obvious to ask, but is it like totally easy to sustain Tails' voice?
I wouldn't say totally easy. Like it's easy for me to find him and to get into his character. But as far as sustaining it, like doing the games kind of wrecks me for the
Right.
next day because it's usually a 4 hour session and it's just me. You know, like when we were doing Sonic Boom, the whole cast was there and Tails may not have had, you know, however many lines Tails had, it was fine because we were doing dialogue and we were talking back and forth and it wasn't just me for 4 hours. Whereas with a video game, it's just me. And most of the games are very heightened, you know, like it's gotta go, we're racing, we're, you know, it's like even if my lines are short, the higher the energy, the more stress it's going to be on my chords. And so like, and I always, it's, I don't know why I always forget, but like the next day I'll be like, oh no, I'm getting a sore throat. And they go, oh no, no, I did Tails for 4 hours yesterday. So because it is, it's right. I mean, my regular speaking voice is kind of on my chords. So even if I just talk a lot and trying to talk over something, like if I am out with friends and everybody's loud and I'm trying to talk over somebody, my voice will be very tired the next day. And
Yeah.
every once in a while I'll lose it. But especially doing um Tails, he's a little bit raspy. Konohamaru, holy moly, he wrecks me
Yeah.
because he's always like Konohamaru, like he's like super gravelly and he's loud. And so the games doing Konohamaru were rough. Like so just
Hmm.
I can feel it. I try, you know, I'm a trained singer, so
Yeah.
that helps a lot because I have good breath control. And like with some of the video games where it's a lot of screaming or dying or battle stuff or whatever, I'm pretty good about kind of talking around it so that I don't do that to my chords. But
Hmm.
sometimes it's unavoidable. But because like, you know, with Tails, he's right down in there. So it gets tired.
Hmm. And I found this to be really interesting because every voice actress I've talked to that also does boy voices has a different specific process for it. Do you have a specific process for boy voices, or does it just depend on the character?
It kind of depends on the character. Like if I know I'm going to be doing it for a long time, I'll do vocal warm-ups ahead of time. But I don't really do anything different for voicing a boy versus voicing a girl as far as preparation.
Okay.
Uh, I just go in and do it. But I will do some of my singing vocal warm-ups ahead of time.
I think in terms of anime, one of the only times maybe that you got to do a kind of musical role was in Nodame Cantabile.
Oh my gosh. Wow, you really like dug deep. Yeah, I've sung a few times. I love when I get to sing. So, but yeah, I haven't done too much singing in anime. We did get to sing a couple times during Sonic Boom, which was awesome. And there's been a couple of shows like I was on If You Give a Mouse a Cookie,
Yeah.
and there were songs in that show, which unfortunately I played the mom, so she didn't sing very much. So I told them, I'm like, just let me be kid number two on the end and let me, so they did, they actually let me sing on a couple of those songs just because I really wanted to. And I was like, I'll do harmony, I'll just be in the background, just let me, you know, join in. So I did that a couple of times. There's been other I did this, it was a live action dub, it was called Violetta,
Okay.
and there was singing in that. And so and they had me doing everything. I was doing other people's parts. I was doing every harmony. I was doing every counter melody. It was ridiculous. But it was great because I like to sing. So
In terms of video games, I was gonna ask if you remember what your first role would have been in either the Spider-Man game or La Pucelle.
I remember La Pucelle.
Okay.
I know I was in the Spider-Man game. I do not remember that one as well, but La Pucelle I remember because that was the first time that I had to do multiple characters, like that many characters in one session, where the
Okay.
end just kind of threw them at me. So that was like that one I can picture that one too. They it was one of those booths that had a big sliding glass door, and yeah, that one was, it was rough because, you know, okay, 20 something female. I can do that, but it's really difficult to make a 20 something female sound significantly different than another 20 something year old female if
Right.
there isn't something else like an accent or a speech impediment, like, unless there's some other, I can pitch it up, I can pitch it down, but sometimes then for me it will make it sound too young or too old or more like a boy, or so it gets tricky. So that one I was like, I think I did, I don't know, like, I can't remember how many parts I had in that. Like, I had the main part that they cast me as, but then they just kept throwing like Citizen A and Villager 2 and like all these different things, and they were very like within the same range. So that was really
Yeah.
tricky. I'd never done that before. I can do it much more skillfully now, but it was hard because I was like, I don't know how to be and there wasn't a lot of information. It's not like I had a picture or a big description of who this person was. They were
Mhm.
Villager A. Um, so that was so I absolutely remember that one because I was like, holy moly, that was stressful. But I did it. So that was good.
And around that same time, I'm not sure if you can remember this, but I thought it was really cool that you actually got to be the protagonist of Mega Man just in one little bit part in a Onimusha fighting game.
Yes, one little thing.
Yeah.
That was super fun. Yeah, so many of the games it was either like just a little thing, and I didn't, and that was, I mean, there's been video games forever, but I feel like they've kind of exploded more over the last few years, and bigger platforms and more, probably because of technology, and there's so many different places that you can play them. So when I would do, I was busy and my kids were little, and I didn't play them, so I never even knew where they ended up. Were they on Xbox? Were they on a PS
Yeah.
something? I never knew, unless they gave me the game. Sometimes they would give me the game. If I didn't have the system to play it on,
Yeah.
play it. So
And one game I personally liked that was on PS2. I think you played the lead in Red Ninja Akemi. Yeah.
yes, I loved that game. That was so fun. Wow, that's awesome.
Because I was, I think, probably one of been your first like more badass female characters.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
I can imagine it had to be really fun playing your role in Fire Emblem, since that's another villainous part that you wouldn't totally expect.
Yeah, that was so much fun. And it was interesting working on that game because the timeline is kind of crazy. And so I played Monica, but I also played Cronia. Um, and I think we did it sort of opposite. Like, I can't remember, but it was like, it was all out of sequence. And so Patrick Seitz again was
Yep.
directing. So he was really great about explaining it to me, but it was hard because like, as you work on almost anything, you did your audition and they liked that and that's why they cast you. But now we're rounding everything out. And so
Mhm.
lots of times it will shift and change a little bit in the session to whatever it is that they're, specifically looking for. So I can't remember. I think I did audition for both, but I didn't know that it was basically Cronia taking over Monica. So it was this crazy like I have this Monica character and I have this Cronia character, but Cronia is like she's who she is, but then there were parts where she was being Monica, but I
Yep.
hadn't done Monica yet. So I was like, uh it was crazy. So, but it was fun. That was such a blast to work on.
We're kind of on the same topic of multifaceted characters. Was there any kind of difficulty playing the different sides of Nell and Bleach?
Um, I have such great directors and they really take me where I need to go. So, um, I, I don't feel like it wasn't, I don't think it was difficult.
Okay.
It's always strange when your character, like, all of a sudden they're a grown up. But then they didn't really want anything really different for her as more of like a more mature sound. Like she really kind of sounded the same, as Little Nell. So,
Mhm.
she did a lot of crying. That girl cried. Cried and cried and cried. I'm like, God, I hope people aren't annoyed by her because she cries a lot. But she was so cute. Um, So I guess the only difficulty is like you have to kind of think of her now she's grown up, but kind of not. So it was sort of that like weird. I don't know. I guess that was a little tricky. But I was like, I'll trust you guys. I'll just do it like this, and if you tell me it's right, great. We'll keep going.
Did you already know ahead of time that that was going to happen?
No, I had no
Oh, you
idea.
did.
No, nope. She was just this little girl with a skull thing on her head. I didn't know.
And what is the? Is there a cool story about working on Spirited Away?
Just that I got to do it. I mean, it was just so great. We were on the Disney lot, so it's a whole group of you doing
Right.
ADR together. Um, it's called a looping group, and so gosh, was that my first looping group? It may have been, and I hadn't done that before, and it's just a whole group of you, and you're filling in all the background stuff. But then I got to do a couple little things here and there, and the animation was just so beautiful.
Mhm.
I loved it. It was you know, I think the was it the year before that Princess
Mononoke.
Mononoke had come out, so I was familiar with him, and I just it was exciting. It was really really exciting, and all the people that we got to work together, and some of them had never done any dubbing or anime before,
Right.
so that was kind of why I got to do it because they needed some younger voices and people who were experienced had some experience doing anime, and I hadn't had a ton of it at that point, but I had had some, so I got thrown in the mix, which I feel like that was just kind of dumb luck. but it was fantastic. It was so much fun.
And I know you've gotten to be on other Ghibli stuff after that.
Yeah, yeah, it was Ponyo. Oh, that was so great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which it's so much fun. It's so great to be in those groups anyway. And when you get to do it on the Disney lot, like I live a stone's throw away from the Disney lot, and so before I actually got to work there, I would drive by and be like, "Oh, I want to work there," and then to get to drive on and go into, I mean, it's just, so that was my dream. That's what I wanted to do, and then I got to do it, and it's crazy.
Do you have the opportunity to audition for any major animated films like original animation?
Here and there, they do like their celebrities in the big movies. But I have, yeah, there's been more for like, it's like if it was a bigger like holiday movie, I'll get to
Okay.
audition for some of those. Yeah, like I mean, I got to work on Cars and
Yep.
Toy Story 3 and Monsters University, but that was within
Look.
the
Yeah.
looping group. But then, sometimes you get those little parts here and there. I got to work on Horton Hears a Who, and I actually ended up with a character named part in that movie, which
Hmm.
was great. So, you know, take what you can get, but they really do like to give the parts to celebrities.
Right.
I don't like that, but that's what they do. What are you gonna do? Oh well.
Just going back to anime, do people bring up Siren from Vampire Night very often? I love that show.
Oh,
Okay.
that was a great show. Yeah, no, I remember that one. No, I don't know. Nobody really talks. I don't know that people do the research like you do, though.
Okay.
I mean, I get people all the time. They're like, "You were Wasp, or you were Jazz, or you were, like some of the bigger ones," and they didn't know. So I don't know that people know like you know.
And you got to be a cute little monster slayers, Pakota.
Yes, he had crazy arms coming out of his head. I the whole like part of the like half the time I was like, "Oh, those are just big like kind of bunny ears," and I'm like, "They have hands." That's so weird. But he was fun to play. That was great working with Stephanie. She's fantastic.
And another one that's more recent, but don't really see you talk about. I loved your role as Isabella in the Violet Evergarden movie.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun to work on too. Yeah, we were all the way down in Culver City. But yeah, no, but I don't hear much about that one either. Every once in a while somebody will post something and I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Because that was also in a different way. That was also kind of unlike any other anime you've done.
Yes, very different. Yeah.
Did you really have much of a story with being on Kakaishi?
Um, remind me of my character's name.
Yomi.
Yomi. Okay. Yes. 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 Okay. I mean, I remember Kakaishi, and I remember the. I remember trying to learn how to spell that one. Um, yeah. Gosh. Wow. You're like blast from the past. You're bringing up stuff from so long ago. That was awesome.
Because it was she was the girl who was kind of in love with her pet demon that she carried around in like a glass jar all the time.
Yes. Yes. There's always something weird. Well, why not? Why wouldn't you fall in love with your demon in your jar?
Mhm. Do you have a favorite in terms of original animation you've worked on besides Kids from Room 402?
That is such a hard question. I loved playing jazz. Jazz
Mm.
was so much, and that whole experience working at Nickelodeon and with Butch Hartman and all the cast members, that was fantastic. Wasp was really really great for me. Like I hadn't really done a superhero before, and on top of that, she was spunky and sarcastic, and she kind of had some of the jokes throughout. And a lot of the time during those sessions, I was the only girl in the room. It was
Oh,
just me and all the guys. um so just, I mean, working on that show was just amazing, and I learned so much because this was before all the Marvel stuff exploded, and I was not a comic book reader. I didn't even, I had never heard of Wasp before I before I booked it. So I learned a lot, and a lot of the guys though were comic book guys, like
mm,
Phil Lamar and Wally Wingert. Like it was like a little tutorial. I would learn lots of stuff at those sessions because they were comic book guys. It was just such a, it was a joy to come to work every day. And Sonic Boom, of course. Oh my
mm.
gosh, those sessions were. We would just laugh our faces off every time. So much fun. It's
I
hard
know.
saying you pick one. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, I know in the Sonic Boom series that you got to uh like play the same or like record with yourself
Oh,
because
when
you're
I was
playing.
Zoe
Yeah.
and Ted, yeah, that was hilarious. So yeah, we did that one a couple of different times and a couple of different ways. So like we went through the scene with me doing both at the same time, and then we went through just Tails, and then we went through just Zoe. Um, but that was, yeah, it was pretty hilarious. Have a crush on yourself. That's
Has
it's
there
kind of.
been many other instances where you've done that?
There's been other instances where I've been the same, talked to myself in the same scene, two different characters, but
Right.
never like my own romantic interest. No.
Okay.
Although I did, this was crazy. That Violetta show that I brought up, my son came in and did a part,
Oh,
and they had thrown this other young girl part at me like the week before or something, and then they called my son in to do a young kid. I think he was, I think the kid was like 12, and my kid was 12, so kind of worked out. And my character had a crush on his character. I'm like, okay, that's
yeah.
that's super weird.
Another more recent one people don't really talk about that you had a cool role in was Kay, Anna.
Yes, I loved playing her. She was kind of creepy, but she was so interesting. Like, and she had her little, her little marbles, and she could find people, and then she got to become the king. Like
Yeah.
that was awesome. But she was so quiet and whispery, and um yeah, I remember that a lot. That one actually was a little bit tricky because she was so quiet and whispery, anytime that there was something more heightened or there was more action, it was hard to maintain her vocal print. Like it was hard to
Oh,
stay
right.
whispery when she's either upset or she didn't do a lot of fighting. But anything that was a little more heightened was trickier because she was so whispery. But
Or maybe that is this the only case with anime where it was harder to bring acting to a character with you because of how quiet they were.
it is sometimes. It is tricky because like Chocho from in
Oh,
Boruto,
yeah.
she's really laid back. Like, and when I first started doing it, they every time they came back with notes, like lethargic was the word of the day. So it's really hard to be like fighting and turn into a big boulder when you talk like this,
Mm.
or if the animation was faster than that slower cadence, to keep that intention, to keep that lethargy while you're talking faster, that was tricky. So I had that was a little bit of a learning curve with JoJo, but I love her. She cracks me up.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've delved into Boruto, but she's one of my favorites. I love JoJo.
Yeah.
She's eating potato chips. She's funny. But yes, it can be harder to go in the action scenes if you've got a character. Hanabi, same thing. She's
Yep.
very quiet. So, and then she's older now, and she's in the Boruto series, and she's kind of a teacher. So that was tricky to find that like more calm, softer voice who's also teaching and fighting and whatever. So that's tricky.
This might be obvious as well, but regarding anime series that are really action based, are you always getting physical in the booth when you're recording?
I do. I try to. I mean, without making noise, of course. But as you can see, I'm using my hands a lot. I can't sit down and do voiceovers. I just can't do it.
Mhm.
And it helps. I mean, that's one of the you don't have anything else but your voice to get anything across. So anything you can do physically to help yourself do that is you. For me, I have to. Like I
Yeah.
remember being in the Avengers sessions, and Fred Tatasciore plays the Hulk, and they always put him in the stand next to me. So I'm here, and he was always to my left. And he's doing Hulk smash, and he like Hulk smash, and he's going like this, and I'm like, whoa, because his arms are flailing, So I mean, I think that when you do give it that physicality, it's going to just give the character that much more, and your audience is going to understand it more. You're going to get more from that character if your voice actor is going for it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. So like, if I was doing mind transfer jutsu, I always put my hands like this because she's doing that. I try
Right.
to, you know, I try to do that I kind of do that with everything, I think, whether they're fighting or not. If it's a slumpier character, I will slump. If they're more, put together, I will be more put together. It just depends on, I don't know. That helps me. So.
Mhm. Well, another major action series that was beautifully done, the anime was Kabaneri Yurikajika.
Oh, yes. I thought that show would be way more popular than
Right.
maybe it was. Maybe there's like a cult, following. But I mean, come on. There's like zombies, and they're stuck on a train, and it's like I thought for sure that would do. And there's like hybrid ones. Like
Yeah.
there's good ones and bad ones, and like I don't know. But I thought that would do much better. But I'm so glad that you saw it. It was
Mhm.
good, right?
Yeah. And you've been in a few different incantations of the Gundam series.
I have. Yeah, the one I remember the most is Origins.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and my character's name changed because she kind of had to, because she went from one place to the other, and they changed her name. So that was always funny because I'm like, wait, I can't find her. I'm like scrolling through the script, and but yeah, that one was fun. That was interesting because she was sort of like, it was almost like she had a new identity
Mhm.
when she moved, and then she almost had a third one later. So, um, and the thing with her brother and the friend and yeah, her parents, very tragic.
Were you like prior to getting roles on things like Gundam and Sailor Moon, were you already aware of what they were, like the
Definitely aware of
franchises?
Sailor Moon. Was not familiar with Gundam.
Okay.
I know Gundam is like a huge franchise, so I didn't. But I not until I did Gundam was I aware. And then I forget what it was. Stephanie had sent out a thing, and we had to figure out which Gundam we were on because they didn't. I don't know. Oh, you know what it was? They were auditioning for a new Gundam series, and if you had already been on one or two of them, you couldn't be in that one because it wasn't the right timeline or whatever.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, you're gonna have to tell me because I don't know which one I was in. So anyway, and I think I couldn't do it because I had done Origins.
Okay.
Probably why I know that I was on Origins because of that.
Is there? I think it probably would have just been maybe a a brief session kind of thing, but I know you were in one of the Persona 5 games, and those are really big now.
Yes, I was a new part on that.
Right.
She came in. Um, so yeah, and I couldn't talk about it for a long time because she comes in later, and I think you have to play a lot of the game before you meet her. Maybe I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I was so excited, and I didn't know that that was so huge until I booked it, and they and they told me. I was like, "Yay, that's exciting!" So yeah, very very excited to be part of that world, and it was a really fun part. I don't know
Right.
if he'll come back if they do another one, but um, yeah, it was super fun. And
And
Cookie Run, I don't know if you.
yeah, I saw that your new post about
Yeah, so that
yeah,
was really fun too. When I again when I booked that one, and that was like talk about secret. They had named it something else. It had a code name, and so I was like, they're like, oh, you booked code name, and I was like, okay, cool. And I went in, and they're like, yeah, it's not that, it's this other thing, and they had like all this stuff in the background, like cookie stuff. And I was like, this is so cute. What is this? And I didn't know, I hadn't was not familiar with Cookie Run at all. And then they explained the whole world to me. I'm like, oh my god, this is so much fun. That was really cool.
well, I know you. I saw in another more recent interview that you've been the voice for a Dish network for a while.
I
Or
was, yeah, for a couple of years, and then they went in a different direction. I don't know who's doing it now, but yeah, that was super fun. That was great. And I who knew? I thought I was auditioning for, or I had auditioned for a specific, when they come out with promotions and whatever, that commercial is not going to be around forever because it's for that specific new product or whatever it is. And it was for this new remote. And I had read the meat of the commercial. And then the casting director had everyone, males, females, whoever's, do that dish tuned into
mhm.
you, the little announcer thing. And I don't typically get those things. Like I will do I'm the girl next door, or I'm the mom, or I'm the friend, or whatever. Like I don't tend to get like announcer type stuff.
Right.
And so when I went in, I thought I was doing the bulk of the spot. And they're like, no, no, this is your script. And it was all those little dish tuned into you.
Yeah.
And it was like, yay. And it was like 4 spots or something like that. And then they called me back in to do it again. And then a couple months later, another one. So that was really cool. So then, because like I said, the remote thing that was only going to last for a few months probably. Whereas this, like every time they had a new thing, I got to go in and say dish tuned into you. I mean, I had to say other stuff too, but yeah, that was cool.
Just yeah, one other role I wanted to bring up before my final question was Praline and Somali in the Forest Spirit.
Yes. Oh, that was so fun. What a cute little show that was. That was I like that. That was fun. Um I forget now. Did she have a sister or a twin sister
Yeah.
or okay. See, I little memories they keep popping in there. That was fun. It reminded me of Harry Potter-ish stuff.
Yeah.
That
Right.
library and
So just the way that I end every interview I do is asking what do you want your legacy to be?
my legacy. Wow, that's a great question. I mean, I hope that um people will remember the parts that I've played, and they'll remember them fondly. um uh and I hope I hope I get to continue working for until my voice gives out. I don't anticipate ever stopping, and um I guess, gosh, I never thought of it in terms of a legacy. That's a great way to think of it. um but I feel like the people that I've interacted with fan wise over the years have all been so lovely, and I feel like that is the best thing I can come away when people come up to me and say you voiced my childhood.
Right.
That's so touching to me, and I hope that I guess, I mean, I feel like that maybe that is my legacy, that some of these shows are so important to people and their memories, and you know people will come up to me and say, oh, I was having such a hard time and I watched whatever show, and that really helped me get through whatever hard time I was having. And that those memories of that show and my performance are linked to an event or your childhood or whatever, that's kind of a big deal, and that's exciting for me, and it makes me feel really good that that's hopefully something positive that has influenced people.
Thanks. I can send you the link to this once I get it uploaded and
Okay,
edited
great.
and
Well, it was
everything.
great talking with you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.